Republicans may risk overconfidence this election, but are Democrats risking disaster? That's what senior political editor Chris Bedford wrote in his latest Beltway brief, and he joins us now. So, Chris, how are the Democrats trying to avoid failure right now?
I've got a couple different kind of things going on, and some of it is just coping, and some of it's seething. The first ones, I guess, we'll start with some of the efforts to get out the vote. Right now, they're basically telling black voters that they have a racial duty to vote for Kamala Harris, black men in particular. Barack Obama, who's launched when he was president, my brother's keeper, didn't have a very good relationship with his own brother. He's kind of positioned himself as a self-styled dad to America's black men. That feeling doesn't seem to quite be reciprocated. But he went out in the campaign show. He spent the last 2 weeks just chastising people. How dare they give up on their duty as black men to vote for Kamala Harris? It's not going over that well, not even with liberal media. And at the same time, apparently, white people also have a racial duty to vote for Kamala Harris. Basically, everyone's got a racial duty to vote for Kamala Harris. The arc of history is long, but it is rainbow colored and it bends toward Democratic politicians, and you're on the wrong side of it if you don't get with the program. I don't know how much that's working either. Maybe a little bit with white women, but there's just if you turn on the TV and you're not watching BlazeTV, you're watching one of the bad programs, one of the bad channels, your chances in 24 hours of hearing a pundit go out and say something awful about white people, that white people owe this, white people should be held accountable, white people aren't pulling their weight on Kamala Harris, and you never, ever, ever see a pundit or an anchor push back on this. You don't see newspaper editors push back on it. When the Nation, once an actually kind of impressive publication with a lot of good literature in it, always liberal leaning, when the Nation's publishing pieces by apparent self-styled intellectuals about the failure of mediocre white people to keep our country from going toward fascism, well, maybe there's just a little bit of animus creeping into the Democrats' message. And then, of course, the last one's my favorite. That is the theory that's being floated by former Republican Representative Barbara Comstock and Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter, that there is a quiet liberal voter out there, a quiet Democrat. Over the last 20 years, I have seen the "This is not normal" bumper stickers. I've lived in neighborhoods where every house had a rainbow flag, except for maybe mine and one other. I've lived in neighborhoods where almost every house had the "In this house we believe" signs, which was mostly about how you're not welcome in that house. Everyone's welcome except for half of the country that is Christian and Republican. And then you of course you remember the pink hats. They had a pretty inappropriate name. All the rich women who flew in from Taos and flew in from California to Hillary Clinton's inauguration, they had non-refundable tickets. They ended up forming the Women's March because there was no President Hillary Clinton. They wore these disgusting hats. You see the mobs screaming at people having brunch in the streets about George Floyd this, or Kamala Harris, or Barack Obama that. I just haven't met this quiet liberal voter. Apparently, there's legions of them out there, but the quiet Democrat seems to be something from at least more than 20 years ago.
Chris, we want to talk about a few more examples of what's happening now. But before we get there, in listening to you talk, let's steelman this for them. The argument would be something like, "Am I right or wrong? I could be wrong about this." Their argument is, we need to get our base out, right? So we're going to say all the things that are going to make sure that all of our people get out there. That's the only conceivable argument I could see for some of this, that we're going to go back to the same tropes. No, you have to do this because of the color of your skin, and we need all those people to get out there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And that's what we're seeing right now. You're seeing this weird sequel. Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic wrote another piece. It's kind of basically the same thing. All these anonymous sources, Trump disparaging the troops and this and that. There's a bunch of, once again, on the record sources saying it's not true. You've got General Kelly, who in the past has claimed, Donald Trump has a flippant point of view. He talks and jokes. He says crazy things. He likes to get our eyes out of people. And for years, General Kelly has been saying, well, Donald Trump said Hitler had good generals or this or that. Who knows if that was actually real? Who knows if it was? It was certainly said as a joke if it was real. But now that's getting pickup. And so, on the one hand, you want to sit back and wonder, why is Vice President Kamala Harris holding a campaign speech from the vice presidential house with the vice presidential seal, where she calls Donald Trump Hitler and a Nazi, and Jeffrey Goldberg says, yeah, he hates the troops. None of this worked 4 years ago. None of this really, or none of this worked 8 years ago. No one's changed their mind really since then. The Democrats calling Donald Trump Hitler seems like it's tried. It's not going to change anyone. But it is exactly what you're talking about there, Matt, which is I think there's a depression in the ranks amongst Democratic voters. They're not feeling too good. They're not feeling confident. They're not liking their team. They're not feeling the same motivation of we hate Donald Trump that they may have in the past. And the Democrats are going to go full bore to be like, hey, just a reminder, all you liberal voters out there, all you quiet Democrats, Donald Trump is literally Hitler. So you need to go out there and vote. And it's kind of a driving out of the base.
Exactly. I want to get your thoughts quickly on a couple of sound bites that we have, because we have Joe Biden out there saying that Donald Trump should be locked up. First, let's go ahead and listen to that.
So I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up.
I'm old enough to remember when that was dangerous, when Trump was saying that, Bedford.
Yeah, and this is more awesome Joe Biden just showing up, making cameo appearances. He's a character from the past now. I mean, he's still president. He's still alive. It's great to see. And he shows up on the campaign trail and just lobs bombs here and there, causes trouble. I laughed a little bit at that. The Democrats have been trying to lock up Donald Trump now for years. They're not going to stop trying to lock him up. But at the same time, Kamala Harris's campaign was so upset by this that they immediately had campaign staff reaching out to reporters saying it's not helpful, saying that Joe Biden doesn't know what he's talking about. So she may be out there saying there's no difference between him and me. There's no light. We are one and the same. We are close allies. But her campaign staff know that this is kind of problematic language, and they're talking to reporters, attacking the sitting Democratic president.
Well, her campaign staff might also have an issue with something else that she said. She went on Telemundo and she went out there and said that she supports mass amnesty for illegal immigrants. Listen.
Right now, we're talking about border security, and there's no Democrat talking about pathway to citizenship, an immigration relief, and the benefits that migrants bring to this country.
Oh, but there's no question that migrants bring. America is a country that was built in part by immigrants.
But people are concerned about their TPS, their DACA, we're talking about mass deportations.
I'm not talking about.
What do you stand on mass deportations? What's your stand there?
We need smart, humane immigration policy in America that includes a pathway to citizenship.
You can't tell me she even believes what she just said there. You can tell the way that she's answering that question, Chris.
What amazed me about the interview is that it seemed like she was the English second language speaker in it. The interviewer, despite a thick accent, had such a better grasp of the language. She was almost just trying to search for what is the word for the, what is the word for is. And at the end, she kind of just fell back on policies that she's been comfortable with her entire life. Now, pathway to citizenship is something that Democrats and Republicans for about over 20 years, 50 years, have been trying to push from time to time. And it is exactly what you say. It is a word for mass amnesty. It is a word for our phrase for the over 10 million, maybe closer to 20 million illegal immigrants living in this country to become U.S. citizens. It is a Democrat catch-all. It's a promise that's always been made. They snookered Ronald Reagan with it back in the day, saying we're going to do this amnesty in exchange for border security. The border security never came. They're still trying it, and they're still trying to push that. But, I love it, at least. There's an honest Democratic Party for once. We've had it now for about 8 years in this country. I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez really ushered it in. Democrats who are honest about what they intend to do.
Muy bien, Senior Bedford. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Can't wait.
And Peterson, it's just one of those things where they are going back, as Chris is saying, they're basically going to the greatest hits of the Democratic playbook, and Trump is Hitler and immigration. They're just trying to throw everything out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it can feel the energy dying. I mean, I haven't heard General Kelly's name in a long time. The last time I saw him in person, I happened to be in the White House, and he marched into a room, opened the door, and looked around and just kind of mumbled, "Where's Meadows?" And and like walked away, sort of haunting. He wasn't happy there then. He wasn't supporting the president. And so these are like ghosts of the last few years coming back. But, they're trying to resurrect them, and they're having a big seance right now. Literally Hitler, literally Hitler, literally Hitler. So we'll see what happens.